but the last owner did the belt service himself. No thanks. So I just bought my first Ferrari, and I realize how pretentious it sounds to say my first Ferrari. It presumes more Ferraris. I hope I live long enough to buy more Ferraris. My period of enthusiasm is well defined, late 80s. And so the Ferrari 328 was always something that I found incredibly appealing. I liked it better than the 308 because it had more power. I prefer the front end treatment on the 328. It was of that late 80s period. To me, the early 80s period, the cars, yes, are a little simpler, a little like leaner, and there's people who like that. But for me, it's the late 80s is really what, that age of excess is really where I live. The 328 GTS is a Targa roof, mid-engine, transverse engine car, 3.2 liter V8. And it's a lovely car, and especially so because I've got the Countach and the 911 of the same period, it really slots in between those cars very nicely. It has elements of what I like about the Countach. It has elements of what I like about the 911 in terms of its usability, its lightweight, its ease of dealing with it. I've only had it for a couple weeks. It's new to me. And so it's an 86, so that's pre-ABS car. It has 40,000 miles on it. It came from right up the road. You may have even seen this car at car shows before. It was at Radwood Road, Atlanta 2 years ago. And it's a really good car, I think. It has done some sitting recently, like the Countach, and so it needs some miles put on it, which I'm working on right now. I've got about 500 miles on it so far. I'm driving it every day that I'm home. It's my daily driver right now. In fact, the only thing bad about it is that my shop is like 4.5 miles from my house, and it's actually not far enough to warm the car up. So I have to drive like 3 exits past my house and then turn around and come back just to make sure the car gets all the way warm on the way to work. But it looks like it won't be comfortable to sit in, but it actually is. Gated shifters are every bit as satisfying as you think they'll be. It's nice to have 2 cars with that. And I like Testarosas a bunch. I've driven Testarosas. They're pretty cool. But the lightness and the agility of the 328 is not present in the Testarossa. And also, you don't have to take the engine out to do services. You can do your belt services and stuff with the engine in. And that means that your maintenance costs, if you really want to drive the car, which I do, the maintenance costs are really on par with an 80s 911 and not on par with an 80s Lamborghini. I intend to explore my miles are cheap philosophy with this car and just drive it anytime I feel like driving it with utter disregard for the mileage. I didn't necessarily want black, but I definitely didn't want red. And so I sent my car finder, Steve Serio, he knows where the bodies are buried. I said, I'm looking for a non-ABS 328 GTS in not red. What can you find? Then he found a silver, he found a green, and he found the black. The green was very promising, but the last owner did the belt service himself. No thanks. Maybe he was great, but I don't want to find out the hard way. So this one had been serviced at a very reputable shop, had lots of records, and so we went with that. I'm very excited. I mean, really, to have a Ferrari, a Porsche, and a Lamborghini of that period, it's very, very satisfying to me. And the best thing I can do is drive that car as much as possible. And I talk to a lot of collectors, a lot of people who have had many Ferraris have said to me, that's the one. That the 328 is the one. It's the easiest to live with. It really gives you that classic Ferrari experience, but it's not so old and clunky that you can't just turn the key and use it whenever you want to do it. So far, so good. So far, so good.
We'd like to thank Patrick Adair Designs for their support of the VinWiki channel this month. Patrick and his team make some of the most amazing rings out of the most exotic materials on Earth. They make rings out of superconductors and meteorites and stardust and all the things that you can imagine, including old parts from broken exotic cars. They've got over 20,000 customers, and Patrick decided to document his journey and the ways that he makes his rings and the cars that he enjoys on his own YouTube channel. So he's part of our YouTube family. He's coming by to tell some stories soon, but check him out at the link in the description below and use the code VinWiki for a 15% discount. Thank them for their support of the channel and find you an awesome ring.